大家。唔好意思，我今日講英文啊。So I will be recapping my presentation in English. So before I say anything else, first of all, a big congratulations to the HKIA for a very successful event and for all the work you're doing to promote this type of competition, so very well done. I also want to congratulate the winners of the competition. I've had a look at the designs, very impressive, and I think they're going to be very useful and very functional in people's houses. I only have one complaint about the designs. I didn't see any of them have a mahjong table capability, so I think that's something that could be considered for next time. Because definitely I don't think any Hong Kong ho can manage without a Hong Kong mahjong table, so I think maybe that should be done next time. So I've been asked to talk about Kwun Police Station, and you're probably wondering why are they asking me to talk about this subject? Because 38 years ago, I came to Hong Kong when I was 21 years old, and my first posting after I left the police training school was in Kwun. Actually, I can't say Kwun, I say Kwun. That's what we used to call it back in the day. So I was posted there for a number of years, so I was asked to share some of those experiences and to talk a little bit about Kwun. Has everybody been, who hasn't been to Kwun, the new renovated cultural centre? Who hasn't been? Put your hand up if you haven't been. Okay, so make sure you go after this talk. I went recently and it's very good and very interesting, and as architects you should really show a keen interest in the subject because they've done a pretty amazing job. A very slow job because it took them 12 years to get it done, but they've done it and it's very impressive, I have to say. So I worked in Kwun, first of all. So actually I haven't changed much, right? Exactly the same as I was all those years ago. Notice I... Everybody says that, but they say Tina. So when I passed out, I was a sub-unit commander in Central, and we'll see some of the places where I worked in the pictures I'll show later, and I was also in the emergency unit of Hong Kong Island, Chong Kong Dai. So, very interestingly, almost 25 years later, I went back to Central as the district commander when I was the chief superintendent, so it was quite nice to go back to the old places I worked in before. Unfortunately, they decommissioned Kwun in 2006, so my office wasn't based there. They still had a few district council functions at this location, so you can see this is one of the DFCC events, very colourful, and it's a very good location for that sort of activity. So, Kwun was there long before I arrived in 1981, for sure, right? It was actually built, the first few buildings, in 1864. I think before everybody here was born, right? So, it's been built up slowly and gradually over the years, and the building you see on the facade here was built in 1919. So it's actually got an amazing long history in Hong Kong, which is quite rare in Hong Kong, because we like to knock everything down instead of preserving. Macau, I think, is a little bit better preserving the past, and I hope this is a good example of how we can preserve the past better for Hong Kong to go forward for the collective memory. So looking at some of the old photographs are quite fascinating. I definitely recommend you Google them. This is actually one of the main buildings, and nowadays you would never see a skyline like that. You wouldn't see the sky anywhere because it's all built up around this particular area, which we'll see later on. And it's one of the rare places in Hong Kong where they had such a big compound area for people to march and to gather. So you'll see a lot of pictures of the police and the military all together parading, actually, in the barrack area. So when I first passed out of the training school, I had to do that every morning with my officers. We would all line up and then I would have to inspect them. Actually, when I first came out, I was very keen and enthusiastic, and I taught them a song to sing every morning. So basically, I would come in and they would parade like that, and I said, "Zhousan go wai nei ho ma." They would sing "Gay ho, gay ho," and then they would sing "Zhousan dai lo nei ho ma." And I would go "Ma ma nei today, fei se ho today." So anyway, something interesting. So later on, as the years went on, they were using more parts of the building. The building you can actually see there is the report room of Central Police Station. So if you wanted to make a report in those days, you would go into that building. And actually, my station sergeant would always say, every time someone came into the report room, So I said, Major, everybody can't be cheesy who comes into the reform room, but after 38 years in Hong Kong, everybody is cheesy who goes into the reform room. So I tend to agree with him on that one. So this building here is actually where they have the emergency unit, Hong Kong Island, and you see the compound is quite empty all the time, but in actual fact it was chaos because there were so many cars inside the building, and it was very difficult to move around, so it was quite rare to see people parading actually in the compound area. And this is outside the main headquarters building, and I'll talk a little bit more about the buildings later on. So this is what you see now, skyscrapers everywhere. The building is still preserved in its historical splendor, but it's dwarfed by what's around it. And actually the site is quite big. It's not just what you see in the compound, there's Victoria Prison as well. The whole site, I think, is about 25,000 square feet. So very, very big. It would cost a lot of money these days, for sure, right? But you can see that a lot of areas, the bits in blue are the police areas, and the bits in grey are Victoria Prison. And I'm not going to talk about that because I never went to prison while I was in Hong Kong, so I don't know much about what happened in that particular area. So this is the front of the building, and this was a real problem with this particular location, because this was the only way into the building by vehicle. So every time there was an emergency, everybody had to rush out of this one entrance, and Hollywood Road was always very, very busy, and it still is very busy. So we had to have traffic lights which we controlled, and it was quite dangerous coming in and out of the police station because of the chaos, and it was the only way out. Not only that, it's actually quite steep. So when I was an inspector, we had leather shoes. So when I ran down the slope to run to an incident, I would slip, and it was quite dangerous. Luckily, we didn't have occupational safety and health in those days. So nobody cared if I slipped. Once I actually slipped very badly, and I managed to grab somebody and not fall on the ground. Unfortunately, it was my boss. And he wasn't very happy. And he was a very big boss, and he fell on the ground, so I kept away from him afterwards. Jumped a little bit there. It's not working. Can you go backwards? Okay, so they've actually done an excellent job cleaning up the building. Of course, they got lots of tourists visiting now. But when I was there, this was a very dark area. This is the back of the main building. And you had to go to the toilet here. And you had to be very careful because very often there were rats in that location. And the rats were quite big in those days, bigger than cats.
Are you torturing somebody there just to...
Something like that. Yeah. And you can see lots of staircases going from one side of the building to the other. There was actually a barber inside the police station operating up there. So if you wanted a haircut, you had to go up 5 flights of stairs pretty much. And by the time you got there, you were too tired to have a haircut, but still. So this is the facade now. Very impressive, I have to say. So again, if you haven't been, I encourage you to go. And this is the main compound area without vehicles, and it's again very impressive to see. Another picture of the compound area. And they've done some fantastic work inside the building itself in terms of renovating it, keeping the atmosphere from before. Actually, it looks much better than it was when I was there. It was, when you're working in a place like that, you're just focusing on your work. You're not thinking about, other aspects like how beautiful the architecture is, etc., etc. But now when I go there, I'm very impressed, and it's definitely a remarkable job that they've done. And maybe they'll use some of the furniture here in the new Kwun as they go forward. And as you can see, they put a lot of different architectural innovative ideas into the place to really highlight the things that were being done there. So it's a very interesting building now, definitely worth a visit. And most of the things there now are restaurants, coffee shops, and also sort of souvenir shops, but they do have some museums as well. So there's lots of things to go shopping for if you like, and enjoy the food as well. And it's because of the restaurants. Very recently I was interviewed by one of the local magazines about my experiences in Kwun, and they actually made a video of my interview. They didn't tell me they were recording me for the video. I thought I was just talking to them, so they wouldn't have to take any notes. So when you listen to the video, you'll go, the narration isn't very good, but it's quite good for giving you an overview of the whole place. So we're going to play the video now. It's only 3 minutes. And I won't have much more to say. I don't know if we're allowed a Q&A later on, so if you have any questions about Kwun afterwards, then I'm very happy to answer them. So video first, please.
So when I left the police training school in 1982, my first job was as a subunit commander in Central Police Station, in Central Division. So I was based at Kwun for my first 12 months when I left the training school. So I was here for about a year, then I went to the police tactical unit, and I was there for about a year. Then I actually came back to Central again as a subunit commander for a different shift. So I was there for maybe about 9 more months in that job. And then I got transferred to the emergency unit, which is the unit that deals with all the big serious cases on Hong Kong Island. So I was still in Kwun, but in a different area and a different responsibility, and I was there doing that for about a year. So altogether I would say maybe 2.5, 3 years working in Kwun. I came back from time to time because I have to come to meetings or I have to work in the control and command center, command and control center. But I only did that a few times. So after that I got transferred to Kowloon, so I never worked here again. So my last memory working here was in 1987. And after that I got promoted and transferred to a different region. So by the time I came back to Hong Kong Island, then already closed down. Actually, my first job was in Central Police Station, and then 25 years later I came back to Central as the district commander, as the chief superintendent. So I was eventually back again, but not this building, unfortunately, as the district commander. So it was quite nice to go round in a full circle after all those years. So quite satisfying, I would say. Yeah, definitely Kwun is very important for police history. It has a long history, goes back a long time, lots of very old photographs showing it being used previously, even in the 19th century. And also it has a lot of historical memories for a lot of officers. I posted a photograph of me from the emergency unit recently, and a lot of my ex-colleagues contacted me and said, "Oh, we have very happy memories of when we were here." The facilities were quite basic in those days. Everything was quite basic in those days, but still, the building is quite an interesting building. It's got a lot of history, so I think people actually quite like working here. So it's good to see that the building is now restored to its glory, but maybe the history is kind of lost because the people who worked here have all gone. I'm sure there's a lot of people still who remember working here or did work here, but I don't know if they're capturing their memories. So it's good to see you trying to capture the memories like this, so very good. And I have to say, one special reason why it has very strong memories for me, I actually met my wife in Central Police Station.
So you enjoy the time here?
I should say so, in case you listen to the video.
So for those paying attention at the end, I actually met my wife in Kwun. So I've got happy and unhappy memories. Just kidding, she's not here, right?
I'll record it.
Okay, so back to the PowerPoint, please. There's one slide to go. So just out of interest, by way of background, in actual fact, a lot of units were based in this particular building. They had the regional headquarters, which had the ACP, the Assistant Commissioner of Police, based there. They had the district commander for Central, based there. They had the divisional commander for Central, based there. They had the emergency unit commander based there. They had the traffic headquarters based there. So it was actually a very crowded place to work. And unfortunately, they were all my boss. Everybody was more senior than me, so I had to walk around the station very carefully so I didn't get into trouble when they saw me. But it was definitely a very enjoyable place to work, and I do have very strong memories of the location. Because we're coming up to December the 25th. Wish you all a very Merry Christmas going forward, and I wish everybody a very joyous 2019. So thank you very much.
I think everybody should take this is an important chance because Peter is leaving Hong Kong very soon, and he's going back to UK and enjoy your retirement or.
No, I'm only going to visit my mum.
And
I won't stay with my mum too long because she's quite hard work. So I'll be back. I'll be staying in HongOng. Don't worry.
Yeah, but his last day in championship is next week, so it's lucky for us to have him. By the way, you have mentioned that it's your last post in police force. 佢係 assistant commissioner， 最後係做係助理警務處處長。So everything is about the SDU, FOU, whatever any kind of 嗰啲機場特警啊、考特警嗰啲，你問下佢啦。因為全部都係佢手下。係啊，好大啊！
If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. But I guess you're all thinking about lunch right now, right? So
no，你問下佢 景學咧，因為個拉個貴景學咧就坐佢隔離而家係啊，貴景學真係真係扮細啊！好啦，by the way, seriously, any questions about Kwun, about police force? It's very difficult to have such guests, and then it's
we have one question.
You haven't mentioned Peter is the negotiator, the head of the negotiator.
Oh, okay. I have to mention that I was head of the Hong Kong Police Negotiation Unit, and I attended quite a lot of incidents in Hong Kong of people taking hostages. And some of you are a bit too young, but if you remember in 1988, there was a bank robbery where the guy took some hostages on the PLB in Lockhart Road. So I was one of the negotiators for that. And he surrendered with all the hostages released after 6 hours. It was a very interesting case because the guy would not come out, even though we did a really good job negotiating. And eventually we found out why he didn't come out. Because he had watched too many police movies. And he thought if he came out, he would be beaten up by the police. So he didn't want to come out. So he got one of our very senior bosses to write a note. We promise we will not beat you up if you come out. So we gave him the note and he came out, and then we beat him up. No, we didn't. Of course we didn't do that. So he surrendered after that, so it was quite an interesting case. So I got lots of other interesting cases, but we're talking about architecture and furniture today, so I won't mention them today. So I think no other questions, right?
Any more questions? No? Yeah, the post.
Well, I think I've given people a few name cards. If you really have any questions, by all means, just get in touch when you get the chance later on. So, yeah, that's it. I'm on LinkedIn, don't worry. I'm not on social media though, always. So thanks very much, and again, who knows where everything goes forward.
Fascinating talk and interesting stories. We'd like to present you a thank you certificate from Simon and Marvin. Could you be on stage?